Good evening and welcome to another episode of Relate to This. I'm Jay Tross. I'm sharing the hosting stage with my good buddy, my pal, my friend, Dr. Siegfried Howe. We are here tonight to encourage somebody in a relationship, somebody who's not in a relationship, somebody who wants to be in a relationship, somebody who's happy in their own skin. Doc, what are you here for tonight?
Somebody who think they're in a relationship, but they're really not in a relationship. And we're going to help them figure out whether or not they're in a relationship.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Hey, listen, we got some housekeeping work to do before we get started tonight. We want to remind you that this show is brought to you by MEI, Making Education Intentional. As we say every episode, we share the stage with the CEO, the owner, operator of MEI, Dr. Siegfried Howe. He's here with us, and we always remind you that you can go to siegfriedhowe.com and you can check out some of the programs that he offers. He is a relationship coach. He is a consultant. He is bringing to light some things that people don't even want to talk about these days. That is relationship and relationship goals.
Mm.
Doc Howe, we just glad to have you here. We glad you signed on to participate.
No problem. No
I use
problem.
that really thinly. Participate in the shenanigans that is me as it
Mm-hmm.
relates to this. As I always say as a disclaimer, I am no professional as relates to this, but Dr. Siegfried Howe is the professional here, but I say some things that even causes him to shake his head and to to tap his feet, and he wants to go back home.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so MEI, Making Education Intentional. And we're here tonight. This is relate to this, and as we do in each episode, we just bring to light some questions and some thought-provoking questions, and we just throw those questions out at Dr. Safri Howe to see how he not only answers them, but how he kind of tailors it to the individual situation, because he understands, and we both understand that every relationship is not the same, every situation is not the same. And so we hope that through this, we're able to get some thought-provoking thoughts to go through your mind. So tonight, Dr. Sigrid, as we have done in the past as it relates to this, like to set the groundwork, or the foundation of kind of what direction that we want to go on this evening as relates to our questions. And each time we do relate to this, it opens our minds up and gives us, I don't know, some extra understanding about some things that we already know. But I want to do it this way tonight. I was having a conversation with some coworkers there, and they kind of brought me into it, because they all know my team, that I do a show called Relate to This with my friend Dr. Siegfried Howe, and so they kind of threw me into a conversation. Man, let me tell you, I've learned something. I need to go out and get me a couple of certs and some degrees, man. I think I picked up a lot of tips from you. I mean, because I was saying some stuff that I didn't even know I had in me, brother.
Yeah.
I you
Do you mean you need to pay me
some royalties.
some royalties for some of the information I've given you?
One of the things during the conversation that we talked about was this whole theory about that percent, right? 50-50,
Mm.
100-100, whatever. And so for through history, a lot of people have said this whole 50-50 kind of thing. But then one day I heard somewhere that theory, it's 100-100, right?
Yes.
That you bring 100% of yourself in, whatever the case may be, right? So then I left the room, and I guess they got to talking and things of that nature. And so, I guess they all got together because they were going to prove my theory wrong, right? They were going to prove it wrong. So I came back in the room, right? They was like, well, listen, Charles. Well, we were talking, how that goes. We were talking, and we
Mm-hmm.
get what you're saying about the 100%. But sometimes, every once in a while you get tired, so you might bring 40% in. You know what I mean? Or it may bring 20% in. Da 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 da. Right? So I
Yes.
was like, yeah, I get what you're saying, because sometimes you get drained, physically, mentally. Yeah. So I said, okay, let's watch this. Watch this. Watch this. You see that bottle of water right there? I said, when you bought that bottle of water, how much water was in it? And they said it was full. I said, okay. I said, and throughout the day, you drank some water out of there, right? It's like, yeah, 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 yeah. And then, by the end of the day, you pretty much drank it. And then what do you do with that bottle? So one person got smart. It's like, well, I throw the bottle out. So everybody laughed at it. Ha, 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 ha. And they said, then the other guy said, well, I fill it back up.
Yes.
So I said, okay, I'm gonna give you another one. I said, I have a friend who has a bottle who has, these big jugs, and on the side of the jug, it has hours. It says at 9 o'clock, drink this, at 10 o'clock, drink this, at 11 o'clock, so on and so on. So I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
then at the end of the day, when they're done working at 5 o'clock, they still have 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I said, after work, watch this, Doc, watch this. After work, you still have a good about 4 hours in you that you spend with your significant other, your spouse, or even your children, or whatever it is. You still have some energy left. But guess what's going to happen at the end of the night and tomorrow morning? What are you going to do? You're going to fill that
Fill it
bottle
back
right
right
back
back
up.
up. There
I
you
said,
go.
so yes, you go in at 100. I said, but throughout the day, it's going to go down, but you're going to be refilled. And I said, that's how it is in a relationship.
Yeah.
I said, you start out at 100% throughout that one day, and then you're going to work as days go. You're going to have some stress at work. You're going to have some stress at play. You're going to have some stress, whatever, but at the end of the day, you're going to rest your body, and then you're going to start all over again at 100%. So you're bringing 100% in.
Wow, wow, wow. You broke it down. Listen, that's why it's important to connect with your partner early in the morning before you head out, before you start your day, because you don't want to be giving them your residuals on a regular basis. You always want to start out your day at 100. And then when you come back, you might find that one partner has been drained and you have to breathe into them life. And like Chris Rock says, sometimes you sing lead and sometimes you're on the tambourine. Sometimes you're going to have to be selfless and give in to the needs of your partner. And other times your partner will have to be selfless and give in and bring into you and breathe into you the energy that's needed to keep going. So you help each other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, I also threw in there the 5 love languages. I threw that out there. And then what else I throw out there? Oh, then I threw out there the compatibility test. Listen, sir. Listen, sir. I said, look at me. I'm becoming a natural. So anyway, so as it relates, so I kind of pretty much laid our foundation, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Of this, giving, your 100% in, but as we said, every once in a while you lose that energy, and the other person, you gotta balance it, whatever. And sometimes you lose the energy. It's directly related to your spouse. Or your girlfriend or your boyfriend. We're going to add all that in there. My question to you, and I want to gauge this as a two-part question, right? Okay. Two-part question is, how do you get good at letting minor annoyances roll off your back? That's part one of the question. Part two is, what helps develop patience and calmness? Because I'm going in at 100. But you done annoyed me. Now I'm down to 20. So how do you let those minor annoyances roll off?
Well, listen, I've been dealing with that in my relationship because as a relationship coach, people expect you to always bring your A game. And so today we had a situation where I think my wife came at me a little too strong. And I was in my bag, I was in my feelings. And I promised her and I promised myself that I will not let these minor emotional feelings linger too long, because it breeds content. And then if you don't address it, what happens is day 2, day 3, day 4, before you know it, you have a big situation that brooded out of nothing. It's all little petty stuff. And so one of the things I do is to make sure I don't let those emotions or those feelings brew, because feelings come and go. You can hate somebody today, and then somebody breaks into the house, you fight off that intruder together, now all of a sudden you're back in love. And so feelings are not a good gauge of love. But we've been taught that love is gauged by the emotions and the feelings that we have. Feelings are fickle.
Right.
your relationship should be based on the commitment that you make, a decision that you make through thick and thin, better or worse if you're married. And so the worst is going to come. But like TD Jake said, your blessing comes after the storm. And so a lot of times when the storm comes, people run to the hills. You're missing the better side of yourself. You're missing the best side of that relationship when you bolt too fast. And so how do you get over those petty things? You get over those petty feelings by thinking about the future. I have committed to this relationship. I want to see it through till it's closed, till one of us dies. And so with that being said, I'm not going to let something small and petty upset the apple cart. Number two, a lot of times people mistake values and boundaries with expectations. Your expectations might be too high. Your expectations might be unrealistic. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes we want somebody that's perfect, but we're not perfect. Right. Sometimes we want somebody to cater to all our needs, but we don't cater to anybody else's need. Right. We always want people to give, but we're not giving. And so your expectations have to be lowered, especially when they're unrealistic. When you lower those expectations, then you find that you become happier. As long as someone does not violate your boundaries or violate your values, lower your expectations in a relationship, because everybody's gonna have bad days. If you give your partner a hard time when they have a bad day, what do you think is gonna happen when you have a bad day?
Right.
So it's give and take. And the second part is, what do you do? What do you do is remember that you're not perfect. Remember that relationships go through cycles. Remember that you made a commitment. And with that being said, you move forward. So relationships aren't about happiness. Relationships are about giving, taking, and struggling through life together. We're all trying to achieve our purpose, but it's better if you achieve it with two people versus trying to struggle through the world with one.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so I want to follow up with that, because you said a few minutes ago that, your wife kind of came at you hard. And, that happens in a lot of relationships, right? And it happened 20 years ago, right? So happened 20 years ago, and I've been hurt, right? And it wasn't with that person, it was with somebody else. Okay. My question here is this. This is my question. How do you intentionally help each other heal from past hurts so that they don't contaminate the present? And for all intents and purposes, I didn't even know you when I was hurt. And you didn't know me when you were hurt. So how do we help each other?
I'm glad you framed it that way, because a lot of times people expect their partners to bring them happiness, to bring them a solution to their problems. At the end of the day, it's really your responsibility to fix your own brokenness. I'm there to lend support, and that's it. And so your job is to find books, to find therapy, training, videos, whatever, to give you resources for you to fix yourself. I'm just there to help you when you fall short, to give you love and support. A lot of times we expect our partners to fix our baggage, to fix our hurts, to fix our bruises, but that has never been our role. And so I don't expect my wife to solve my problems, but I do expect her to support me as I go through my problems. But to expect her to solve them, and she has her own baggage, why? That's not fair on me. So a helpmeet, not a solver. We all have our own baggage, and we all need to be working on getting ourselves fixed. I hope I answered that better.
No. I got what you're saying, and that actually goes back to the theory of you got to love yourself first
Yes.
before you try to lend that love or try to incorporate with someone else.
Mhm.
That's what that goes back to.
Yeah, and that's the reason why if you jump from partner to partner without fixing what's wrong, you end up with bigger and bigger bags.
Mm.
Because after the breakup, you're supposed to self-reflect, self-develop, move forward. But if you just throw blame at the other person and you jump into the next relationship without having a chance to self-reflect and self-assess, you never get a chance to fix yourself. And so a lot of people end up saying all men are dogs, all women are dogs, because they are attracting doggish type people. But if they're taking the time to self-reflect, self-assess, and self-develop, you will find that you would attract different types of people.
Yeah. Wow. That's right. And so speaking, I mean, you're right on my you're in my lane. You're in my lane. So as you speak about that and attraction, and once you're attracted to somebody or have this feeling, um, and you get into this relationship, you're looking for certain things,
Mm,
right? You're looking for certain things. One of the things you're looking for: safety, security, and trust,
mm.
right? So my question is this: what do emotional safety, security, and trust look like in a relationship, and how do you nurture it?
That's a good question. You know what it looks like to me?
Hmm.
It looks like I have to attract the right type of people by being that type of individual first. Because based on the law of attraction, you will attract like minded people. So if I keep attracting people with fleas or dogs with fleas, I need to work on my flea repellent. I need to work on fixing myself. And so if trust is a big issue for you, chances are you're probably not trustworthy either because you have a lot of issues you need to work on. What I need to be working on in the relationship is how to provide support, how to provide resources to my partner. If all I'm focusing on is negativity, that's all I'm going to attract. You attract what you focus on, you become what you focus on. So if all I'm looking for is somebody trustworthy, then I'm focusing on trustworthiness. I'm going to get the opposite because I'm not working on myself. I'm just looking for someone very specific. But if I work on myself in a specific way, eventually non-trustworthy people will not feel comfortable around me. People who are not about business aren't going to come around me because I'm not going to be giving off that type of energy. And so it's not about finding someone to trust. It's not about finding someone who has your back. If that's all you're focusing on, you won't get nothing but problems. People, that to me is almost like a selfish type way of looking for a relationship. A lot of times, the best relationships are the ones that fall into play without you seeking them.
Right.
When you're trying to find something, that's when you don't find it. So if you're trying to find trustworthy people, you're not going to find trustworthy people because you never find what it is you seek.
Wow.
That's how life is.
Wow. And this will be our final question for this evening, and this is going to be a lighthearted one, right? We did some heavy duty ones. This one, we all have different gifts. We all have passions. We all have dreams, and we talked about dreams before. We have all of these things, and in some relationships, it's not really talked about. Like you don't compliment them or you don't support them or whatever. So this question is how how do you celebrate and appreciate each other's uniqueness, the gifts, your quirks, your passions, your dreams. How do we back to what does that look like?
Well,
What does that celebration look like?
I'm glad you said that because most of us don't do that. Most of us are attracted to someone because they're opposite from us. But then we spend the rest of the relationship trying to make them into versions of ourselves. So if you outgoing and I'm not outgoing, I like you because you're outgoing. But as soon as we get into a relationship, I don't want to go out with you, and I try to stop you from going out. And so I do everything in my power to change you, not even thinking about the fact that once I change you, you're no longer going to be somebody I'm attracted to. And that's the double-edged sword. And so how do you it's too loaded a question, man. It really let me get your input before I give my closing, because I honestly feel that we do everything in our power to sabotage. And if we celebrate the differences, and if we learn to accept that my partner or partner is giving us an insight to our blind spots that will help us make better decisions in our life, then we will better celebrate them. But we get so frustrated in the fact that they're not like us that we do everything to change them into what we want. So the celebration doesn't take place because of selfishness. So you ask me, how do we celebrate? We celebrate by understanding that everyone has a part to play. And your differences is what covers my blind spot.
Wow.
And then if I know that you have my back, then I can celebrate what you bring to the table versus, yeah, he gets on my nerves. He's always making light of every situation. Yeah, you uptight, but you want him to stop joking around because it makes you uncomfortable, but you make him uncomfortable. So let's celebrate the fact that sometimes we could be serious, sometimes we could be happy. Let's celebrate the fact that sometimes we want to go out, sometimes we want to stay home. Let's celebrate the fact that we're not the same so we don't bore each other. Instead of being upset, let's celebrate the differences.
Wow.
And start focusing on that 20-30% that we don't like. Let's focus on the 70% that we love and appreciate about each other.
Wow. Hey, listen. Can you relate to this? That is the question. I mean, I don't even have to give anything, Mike, because that's it right there. That's it. I mean, you said it. You sabotage, and then sometimes you self sabotage because the person who is sabotaging you has gotten into your head. So you start self sabotaging your own self
Mm-hmm.
as relates to your uniqueness. And
Mm-hmm.
so, wow, man. I mean, yeah, that's deep. And like you said, it is a loaded question, and it can go down so many different roads.
Yeah, yeah.
With that being said, we thank Dr. Siegfried Howe for jumping in once again into the deep questions that are going around in our own heads, but we don't know answers to them. And so we
Yeah,
like
yeah.
when Dr. Howe comes on the scene, as they say, with the gangster lean, to give us insight into this. And so our question that we leave to you is, can you relate to this? Hey, listen, we look forward to seeing you on our next episode. Have a wonderful evening.
Y'all have a good night.